What's your history with this scheme and this system? I know you've coached just about everywhere, but what's your history with this scheme and this system, and how does it affect the way you teach and do everything?
Well, that's a great question. As you said, I've been very blessed and fortunate to coach a lot of different systems, in a long career. I've been in this system actually 3 or 4 different times. And when I say this system, I'm talking about an aggressive 4-man front, one gap control, penetration oriented, system. Back in the days, way back in the day when I was at Detroit, we called it an attack and react system. And it does require different training than, for example, when I've been in gap and a half systems or 3-4 systems where the emphasis is on knocking blockers back, keeping the offensive line off the linebackers. It's a different kind of training than this system where you're working penetration, you're working change of direction, movement, where the other ones, you're playing with a different type of player, and you're just snot bubbling people. I mean, which means you hit them so hard that daggone snot comes out of their nose. I mean, so it's a different type of mentality. They both win, they both work. I've been fortunate enough to have success. I've been both of those systems and had a lot of success and had a lot of successful players. So I'm excited to be here though with Flus and Frank in this system.
Zach Kiefer.
Hey, Coach. How you doing this morning?
Fantastic, Jack.
So you get this new group. I'm anxious for your thoughts on them. And obviously you guys made a big move at your position in March to bring in Buckner. I'm just curious, you got Justin Houston, you got Toure coming back, you've got Autry, and you've got Buckner. And I'm just curious for your thoughts on the talent that you've got at the defensive line spot.
Well, I'm really excited. My initial concern when I got here and the first time I got a chance to actually study these guys a little bit up front was, our depth inside. I would have liked to, come into a situation where we had a little depth inside. And obviously when we got here, that was a point of emphasis. Free agency, I mean, we were looking at a lot more interior players than we were outside guys. And that was a concern. So when Chris pulled the trigger on DeForest, man, I mean, holy cow, I couldn't believe it. It's like Christmas. Just because I think he's the right kind of guy. It was interesting. I got excited about him as I was studying other guys at the 49ers, Sheldon Day being one of them. Okay, and I'm really excited about getting him too. But anyways, I was studying those guys, both a couple of their ends, and like I said, Sheldon inside. I keep seeing this big old 99, and I've been out of the league for really 5 years. 1 year I was, out of ball, at the end of my contract at Washington. I was out of ball, and then 4 years, these last 4 years, I've been in the SEC. So I've been away from it for a while, and I didn't really know who DeForest was. My energy was focusing on college players and recruiting. So I didn't know who he was. And I'm like, who's this big old 99? Man, this dude can play, and I'm like, man, I hope it'd be great. Then, you end up looking, okay, DeForest Buckner, young kid. I'm like, man, it'd be good to get this guy, So then all of a sudden, it became a possibility. I'm like, wow, yes, let's go get him. So, and I think what that does too, it gives us a chance to strengthen our front. It gives us a chance to use a versatile guy like the Nico Autry. Nico has proven he can be a successful end in this league. He's proven he can be a successful tackle in this league. Gives us a chance to, train a young guy, Ty Lewis, both inside and outside, and find out where he can be, best productive with his skill set. A guy like Toure, he just got to stay healthy. I call him chemo. Chemo just has to stay healthy. He's proven that he has a unique skill set to rush the passer. I liked our young players, Ben Banagoo, our coach, Gary Green. I think Gary's got an upside. And then the guy that, matter of fact, the guy that's kidded me, the other D lineman kidded me, and they say he's my favorite because, he does play like a ballroom brawler, is Grover Stewart. And Grover's a big, explosive guy that can, he does actually play a little bit more like players I've had in the past in different systems where he does snot bubble guys, but he has a unique athletic skill set where he can hit guys and get off and still penetrate and make plays. And, he's kind of our bouncer of the group. I call him the Rottweiler where those other guys are Greyhounds. So it's great to have the flexibility. But as you can tell, I'm really excited about our personnel. I think Chris, Frank, and Flus have done a great job of building this.
Stephen Holder.
Hey, good morning, Coach. You just mentioned being in college for a while there, and I was going to ask you along those lines. You have a unit that's kind of interesting. It's made up of, you got some really veteran guys, like Justin Houston and the like, but also some young guys who need some molding and are ascending. And I'm wondering how you like that sort of composition and the makeup of that unit. It's kind of interesting.
That's the great thing about pro ball. It's funny, when I was in college and parents and even players would ask me, whether the differences and things I liked and didn't like. That was always one of the things that I liked about the NFL, is that you do have, you could have a 21-year-old and a 35-year-old, and you've got to find a way to encourage them all, teach them all, help make them all better, because they all want to get better, even those at the end of their career. Obviously, I'm not saying Justin's a 35, but I've coached a 35-year-old defensive lineman before. So, having that variance in the room, young guys coming in, and Justin's being an example where we've got some young guys that are on our team that, admire Justin, looking at him on Sundays, obviously when he was at Kansas City and being a dominant player. And so that automatically gives him the opportunity to be a mentor, to give him an opportunity to be a resource of how to teach the guys to be professionals, how to teach the little tricks of the trade. Great player that I was fortunate enough to work with back in the past, Leon Lett, who was my assistant at Dallas, used to say the game within the games, the trick of the trade. And really, I think players have a better feel for that than coaches sometimes, because, they kind of know what's worked for them. My job is to make sure guys don't try to totally emulate those great players that they're in the same room with, because those great players are great players because of their skill set and of the things that they've mastered over the years. My experience is if young guys come in and try to do too much too soon and try to do something that their skill set might not be tailored towards, then they end up making mistakes. So, my job is to point out those things that those older guys do, and then kind of, help them tie those things in, particularly the off the field practices, in with the young guys' game to help them produce and mature and develop.
Kevin Bowen.
Hey, Brian, nice to meet you and appreciate your time this morning. When you look at Grover Stewart, you talked about him earlier, but he is kind of the most unique body type maybe up there, and being kind of a wider body guy. How important is he, because he is a bit of a forgotten man, but how important is he on those early downs for you?
Well, I tell you, he's not forgotten for me. Again, looking at the tape, not knowing who he was, I mentioned my reaction to, looking at 99 at San Francisco, DeForest, not knowing who he was. Well, it was a similar reaction looking at Indianapolis film and seeing who the heck is Grove, who's this big guy. Because you're right, he was unique, particularly, last year, really unique to Danico and, Marcus and those guys. I mean, those guys were all linear, and then you got this big body guy coming in there rumbling and knocking people around, but still productive and making plays. We're in my experience, in my opinion, the new black and blue division. When I came in this league, I spent a lot of my time in Detroit and Minnesota, and that's when Tampa was part of the Central. So that was a downhill, punch you in the mouth, league. And I believe now with Jacksonville, Tennessee, and then, obviously we enjoy running the ball too. I think this league is becoming that, our division, not the NFL, but our division. And so, we're going to need some big physical guys that can help set the tempo from a physicality standpoint, not just, penetrating and being athletic, but some guys that are going to hit you with the big boy boxing gloves, the heavyweight gloves, and Grove will certainly do that.
Mike Wells.
Hey, Brian, how you doing? Nice to meet you. You seem pretty excited to get your hands on all these guys and stuff. How tough has it been in this situation coming in and obviously being new to the staff and not being able to work with these guys, having to do everything virtually to kind of meet them and kind of get to know their tendencies and stuff?
Well, it's certainly been different, Mike. At 36 years or however long it's been coaching, you kind of think, and especially being in so many different places, I think this is my 9th NFL team. You figure, okay, well, I've seen it all and pretty much done it all, and then the challenge would just be to do it better. Well, I guess I hadn't done it all or seen it all. This year has been challenging, especially for a guy that had a flip phone until 2015. So technology-wise and everything else, I had to accelerate my learning when I was a college coach because of Twitter and social media and recruiting and all that. Required that, but this has been another thing, and it's good. It's challenging, because again, I said, I have been coaching for a long while, so it's challenging to say, okay, how can I take this mechanism, this medium, and help prepare guys, and give guys things to do. Show them how to look at film and actually visualize themselves on the field and try to get those physical reps per se through visualization. And as they visualize themselves in a spot doing what the defensive assignment allows them to do or prescribes them for them to do against what they're seeing on film on offense, and really dialing them in and, okay, hey guys, what would you do if he does this and you do that, and really putting them in that situation, at least, from a mental standpoint, and what they're processing from a cognitive standpoint, they can get, the next best thing other than physically going through it. So those things, actually, introducing them to different teaching techniques. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and things that I've done in the past in a similar system, a little different than what they've done here in the past. So those little nuances, getting them accustomed to that, and just okay, hey, if you're in this situation, this is how we would do it. So it's been challenging, but I enjoy challenges. That's why I'm a coach.
We got time for 3 more. Jim Aiello.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for doing this. Nice to meet you. I just want to ask, maybe go back to you getting hired here and coming to Indianapolis. Why did you decide it was time to kind of pull the trigger and come back to the NFL? And then, I know you have a relationship with Frank and Matt. So why was this the place that you could see that happening?
Well, I mean, it's really, by the grace of God that it all worked out the way it did. When I got back into college coaching, Dan Mullen hired me at Mississippi State. And when Dan asked me, hey, what are your career goals? I told Dan, I said, well, I want to coach the best defensive line in college football. That's what I want to do while I'm here for you. He said, well, how long do you think you'll be? I said, well, Coach, to be honest with you, if I can stick it out for 4 years, and give my daughter a chance to start high school and graduate from high school, she'd be the first one of, and this is my youngest daughter, she'd be the first one of 4 really that I've had in my home that has done that. I mean, every one of them hadn't, didn't have the opportunity to go all the way through high school. And although that may sound like modest goals, that's really what it was. Well, as it turned out, I stayed at Mississippi State 3 years and went to Alabama on that 4th year, but the 2 schools were geographically so close. I was able to keep my daughter in the same high school, so that worked out. So, here we are at the end of the 4th year. And, if you were to ask me, the guy I want to work for, the coordinator I want to work with, and really in a system that I'm excited about, okay, it would be this. The fact that it's the Colts, and Chris Ballard as a GM is kind of just icing on the cake for me. As some of you guys may know, I grew up as a Baltimore Colts fan. And when I went away to college was when the Mayflower truck, moved the franchise. So it took me a while to even say Indianapolis Colts. I would either say Indy or I would say Colts. I couldn't put the two together for a while. But I've gotten over that. And then, obviously with the success Tony Dungy's had here, and Tony and I are good friends, I've grown to really like this franchise. So be a part of it along with the people in it. It really has been a blessing, and like I said, by the grace of God, that opportunity became available.
George Bremer.
Coach, you talked about kind of catching up on the personnel. I was wondering about your thoughts on Al-Qadim Muhammad and whether or not he might be in that role to potentially replace Jabal Sheard as a starter at end.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a very competitive camp. Of the guys right now that I probably say, okay, their spot is as much as you can think, pretty much in stone. It'll be Justin and DeForest. And really everybody else is going to be a pretty competitive thing. Nico is going to have an opportunity to, like I said, get out there and play some left end. Mo would be in that competition. I really like Mo. I love the way he plays, love the way Nico plays. And I've known Nico for a long time. I'm Coach's brother, which gives him no advantage. It's just that I know his style of play. And, like I said, Ben Banigou, Kimo, we've got a lot of good football players who are going to be competing. And I think Robert Windsor will be able to throw his hat in the mix too. I like our young player, our rookie players, even some of the college free agents. I like those kids. So, like I said, guys, this is a group I'm really excited about. I can't wait for camp to start, for our feet to hit the grass, see those guys run around, compete. And it's the one thing I'll guarantee is that we're going to have the best defensive line out there. The guys who earn those, who are out there, playing for the blue, are going to be the guys who earn that opportunity because of their play and nothing else.
And last question, Stephen Holder.
Hey, Coach. Just one follow-up. You mentioned being in college these last few years. You had that long stretch in the NFL prior to going back to college, and I'm wondering, every job you have in whatever arena you're in, you grow and you learn and so forth. So I'm wondering, what did the last few years either teach you, or how did you evolve, or anything along those lines that you kind of bring to the table now?
That is no disrespect to the other questions, but that's one of the best questions I've had, not only here but in a long time since being back in the league, because that really required a lot of self-assessment. As you look back and you every year you kind of go back and you say, okay, what did I learn? What's going to help me be a better coach? The current year, and what I did is looked at that entire process. Not just individual 4 years, but coaching college kids. So the answer really is that it gives me now a way to identify potential situations, understanding, having a better feel for, how these young guys actually see things. Why are they the way they are? Because they are different. People, old guy, everybody thinks it's an old man comment. Oh, kids aren't what they used to be. Well, they really aren't. Players aren't what they used to be, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're worse. That just means they're different. And they are different. And I didn't understand that before I went back to college. I didn't understand why they were different. And being a part of the recruiting process, particularly, in the number one conference in the country, SEC, the attention that these guys get starting in junior high school, going all the way through high school, and the recruiting process and all the different things they go through, the responsibilities that they have, hey, this guy's going to leave as a junior and be a first round pick and, get his, family out of poverty and all that. And I mean, these are things I've actually heard in communities from guys who really aren't those kind of guys, so you can imagine the pressure that's on kids at a young age, who actually are those kind of guys. So when they come to the league, it's different than just coming in to be a pro player. They have a lot of responsibilities because of all the attention that was put on them when they were 13, 14 years old. So I have a better understanding of what they are going through, which gives me a better opportunity to reach them where they are instead of have them come to where I am, okay, where, you know, arrogantly I used to do that as a pro coach, you know, you better figure it out. Well, now I realize I've got to figure it out. And I understand the value of having to figure it out, because once you reach them, then you've got them. Then you can actually then help get them to where they need to be. And that's to be the best that they can be. So, you know, I don't know if you were looking for a football answer. It really wasn't one. You know, it was more a teaching, communication, and caring answer. Because for me, that was the value of going back to college.